This is your fault, Edgerton. That's me, laid out on my back on a railroad bed. More specifically, my ankles and wrists have been duct taped to both rails so that I am lying perpendicular to them, my head hanging over one rail, my feet hanging over the other. Now here's the deal. I can live without my feet, but losing my head is obviously a different story altogether. And should I mention that the railroad bed in question is one that's currently in use by Amtrak for their passenger train service that runs maybe 6 or 7 times daily along the Hudson River line from Albany to New York City's Pennsylvania Station and back again? So, how did I get myself into this mess? Let's start with the guy I'm bitching about. A man by the name of Leslie Edgerton, who, by the way, is also duct taped to the rails right beside me. Leslie and I met at a bar last night inside a glitzy Midtown Manhattan hotel at a writers' conference called Suspense Fest, which was filled with anything but. Thus, our serendipitous communion in the bar. When Edgerton, or shall I call him Edge, started talking like he'd known me his whole life about the hard time he did at Greenhaven Maximum Security Prison for armed robbery, I couldn't help but listen. When he started in on a story he heard while incarcerated there of a gold deposit supposedly buried in the sleepy little upstate town of Phoenicia by the 1930s gangster Dutch Schultz, I began to listen so attentively I almost grabbed a bar napkin and started taking notes. When Edge downed a shot of Jack, slapped my back so hard my fillings came loose, and exclaimed, "What the hell are we doing here hanging around a bunch of introverted writer geeks when we could be striking it rich, or at the very least, finding something interesting to write about?" I felt that little whiskey-soaked devil inside me say, "What the hell? Let's do it." Chase, the spontaneous. What happened next is a bit of a booze-soaked blur, but it goes something like this. We hailed a cab which, after stopping at a bodega for a six-pack, dropped us in the middle of the tiny Catskill Mountain town an hour later for $300. A fare the apparently royalty-rich Edge gladly paid. But instead of jumping on the trail of Schultz's gold, Edge decided the more prudent thing to do was grab a few more drinks in one of the local watering holes. Get the lay of the land, so to speak, interview a few of the local yokels. That decision led to our meeting a Russian fellow and his son, both of whom were dressed in silky black Nike tracksuits, and whose bellies, the father's anyway, bulged far beyond what the Mexican sweatshop-constructed elastic waistbands were meant to accommodate. In any case, Edge took a liking to them, and when he explained we were 2 writers on the trail of Schultz's lost treasure, they volunteered their services as guides. "I am Sergei," said Russian Senior. "My boy is Sergei, too." What all this meant was dropping another couple hundred apiece on the Sergeys and piling into their black Lincoln town car. Only instead of heading up into the mountains, we drove through the night, while Edge spewed forth about how Old Dutch supposedly buried $6 million of his loot under a sycamore tree by the Esopus River, with legend having it that Dutch himself carved an X into said tree. Edge figured that finding the treasure would be a no-brainer. But that's when Sergei Sr. snorted from behind the wheel and said, "The whole of Catskill is a tree preserve, like Siberia, huh? Like finding needle in smokestack." "Haystack," Sergei Jr. corrected from the shotgun seat. "It's needle in a haystack, Pa." Swinging a beefy right hand with more speed and precision than Rocky IV's Ivan Drago, Sergei Sr. smacked his boy's baby face. "Ouch!" the boy groused. "Why'd you do that, Pa?" "You don't insult me in front of guests, da," he said. "You need to treat me with respect." We kept driving, past the mountains and over the metal bridge under which spanned the wide Esopus River. "Where the hell are we going?" I asked at one point. "Good spot to look for loot," said Sergei Sr. "Place nobody knows." Edge leaned into me. "Don't piss them off. We might be onto something here. Russians are a tenacious bunch."
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.